You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Today we're going to keep with our theme of making sure our Weight Loss Wednesdays are really focused on good overall health, but at the same time teaching people why certain cravings or certain things with our own physiology can make us want certain foods, which then in turn could affect our overall health or even make us gain weight. So we're going to talk about food cravings and really what they mean, because they honestly do mean something. Like a lot of the foods that you want, that you crave, are actually a physiological requirement that your body's looking for. And I want to explain that. So before I go into those, I want to give kind of a public service announcement, just something really, really important. There's a few parents that have written into me saying that their children are, they're eating things that they shouldn't be eating. Like they're trying to literally eat rocks, or they're putting dirt in their mouth, or they're eating, there's even a video, I believe, circulating of a little girl, 3 years old, eating light bulbs. And, this is very, very disturbing, but no one's ever told these parents, certainly it's not a thing that anyone's ever taught, that this could be an actual mineral deficiency, which usually it has to go with iron, but it could be something else, and it's called pica. And kids just, again, like their gut, their brain are talking to each other, and what happens is they seek out these things that might contain iron in nature, and they eat them even though they're very, very potentially harmful. So if you have a child or you know anyone who's just eating the most random things, please have them tested for mineral deficiencies and get them on a good multivitamin. Put that just in the easiest way possible. Kids love gummies. Gummies aren't great for the digestive system, but those vitamins are much more important than the gelatin and stuff like that they might put in them. So please do that, or just make them a smoothie and put their multivitamin right in there. And these kids need simple forms of multivitamin to get in there. All right, so that's my public service announcement. Let's move on to the next one. One common, and we're going to go through all different food cravings, but one common food craving is like women always ask, and I get this question a lot, like, why would I possibly crave pickles? And why would I crave pickles maybe more towards my cycle or when I'm pregnant or whatever it might be? One of the things is that pickles are predominantly high in electrolytes, namely sodium, and there's absolutely some potassium in there as well. So what happens is when you eat these, when you eat the salt and the vinegar from the pickle, you're getting back those electrolytes, which can help with cramping. They can help with calming, smooth muscle activation. And so that's your body saying like, well, maybe pickles aren't our favorite thing, but certainly the sodium is, the salt is. That's why people drank Gatorade for years during halftime, especially during football games or sporting events. They're replenishing their salt, which they just sweat out. So again, really, you don't have to eat so let's talk about sodium right now. So one of the things that people love is salt. They love sodium. And same reasons, when you start to get low in your electrolytes, or especially people with low blood pressure, you want that salt. You want your body to be able to pick back up those minerals. So I'm going to try to give you some healthy recommendations. Maybe you still occasionally have that pickle, but what I want you to say is just get some Himalayan sea salt. That's the pink sea salt. Or get a company called Real, R-E-A-L. It's the name of the company. They're from the salt beds of Utah. Or get some Celtic sea salt, and that is from Ireland, I believe. So you have 3 different sources. Or you can go rock salt from India as well. You can add a pinch of it to your food. Now, how much salt should you add? Usually it's to taste. Use salt to taste, meaning that it's enough salt for you when your body says, whoa, that's enough salt. Like that's how you know how much you need for the most part. If you're working with a practitioner, they can help channel that a little bit. If you're someone dealing with high blood pressure right now, then you're going to want to cut back. The only reason you would cut back on sea salt is if you're not getting enough potassium in. You get enough potassium, then you can take in really as much sodium as you would like. The two have to stay balanced, all right? And of course, you need to stay hydrated enough. If you don't drink enough water, well, then you're going to build up that sodium as well. So that's not ideal. So That's salt. Another big one is chocolate. A lot of people crave chocolate. So when I go through my health questionnaire with people that, what do you crave? It's usually chocolate. A lot of times it's chocolate after dinner. I want to tell you something. Chocolate it can be used for energy because it contains some caffeine. But one of the main things in chocolate that people crave chocolate for is the magnesium. Because when you eat chocolate, it calms you down, right? That calming sensation can come from that magnesium. So you can use something like in our deep sleep protocol at night, we have people use that, and it's a magnesium citrate. And they mix that up, they sip on it about a couple hours after dinner, about 20 minutes, a half hour before bed, and it just calms down their whole central nervous system. I spoke about adrenal fatigue yesterday. Adding in a little bit of magnesium at night, you don't want to do it during the day if you have adrenal fatigue, only because you're already tired. You don't need more of a sedative. But at night, it replenishes those low magnesium levels, helps get you into a deeper sleep, turns off that anxious mind. I wish I had that. I'll tell you, I wish I had that in my teenage years, in my early 20s. Would have helped out tremendously. So another big food craving is carbohydrates. People love their carbs. Now, when you're trying to lose weight, you already most likely have an excess of energy in the body as usable body fat. So we can't have as many carbohydrates right now because if you're in an endomorphic state, if you're in a kapha body type state, you need more vegetables. That's why there is no one diet for every human being rather than your more processed food, your higher glycemic foods. And that's why there is no such thing. If you're an ectomorph or vata body type, eat your carbs. You need them. You are a sugar burner and you burn carbs all day long. If you're storing body fat, well, your body's trying to tap into more body fat. Those vegetables are your best friend. But carbohydrates in general are a lot of times because people can't regulate their blood sugar. So they have a high glycemic meal and they just drop. Or they have caffeine, they have their coffee in the morning, and then they just drop. And now you need to be brought back up. Your body's going to crave more sugar, and it's going to get that from carbohydrates, namely processed carbohydrates, which is what people sometimes craving. So, what would I say to that? Well, I would say is make sure that your meals contain enough fiber. Fiber will slow down the digestion of those carbs. That's why I'm a bigger advocate of either the greens powder juices. Remember, if you go to my website and just click on greens juice recipes, it will show you I use the greens juices or the greens powder to mix that because it's low glycemic. And the reason why I'm a big fan of smoothies over a lot of these fruit juices is because the fruit contains the fiber when it's been blended still. So it's a big, big difference. That's why I'm a big fan of smoothies because you get the fiber along with it. It's not just juiced fruit, which I definitely can't recommend because you're going to get the high, you're going to feel great, and then the low right afterwards. And juicing, I remember I got all into this a long, long time ago, and I was like, well, juicing is good for you, so I'm just going to juice. And I would feel terrible juicing because I didn't realize the high glycemic spike and then the big, big low. Once I started just doing green vegetable juices and maybe using some carrot or some beet as a sweetener, then it started working out, of course. But I did smoothies, and then that worked out even better. So that's a big one. Sugar goes along the same lines. People love their sugar, especially mid-afternoon. They're starting to get a little sleepy, a little tired. That can do with so many different things. But also, keep in mind that your body starts to get burnt out of neurotransmitters. That's namely serotonin, GABA, dopamine. And what happens is when we're getting low in those, our body knows that it can get more of that serotonin, more of those neurotransmitters by eating sugar or carbohydrates. That's why carbs aren't all bad. We need good carbs in our diet. If we don't, we're going to be cranky, and we're also going to not be able to produce the amount of good bacteria in the gut, which also produces the serotonin. So anyone who tells you not to eat any carbohydrates is just a little misinformed, or just, I like to say, early on in their education level. For example, if I did this podcast 15 years ago, I would have thought that I knew a lot. I could teach you a lot. And I bet I could have taught you a good amount of things, but I wouldn't have been far enough ahead of my development to teach you more of the deeper health-based issues. I could give you, I believe, good nutrition advice, good fitness advice, but not from a true health-based perspective. So I'm happy I waited, of course, and hopefully that works out in your favor as well. So sugar's a big one. Again, remember, if you're trying to lose weight, you're going to stick to mainly vegetables, but you can really load up on those good low glycemic veggies and get your good carbs in there. It's going to act as natural prebiotics. Never a need really to take prebiotics. You can just get it from eating your carbohydrates. That's pretty simple. What about high fats? People who crave fatty foods, they crave, well, ice cream's a different story because it's sugar and fat, but let's just say you crave fatty food in general. Maybe like it's a healthy food like fish, or you crave dairy or something like that. Well, it could be an essential fatty acid disorder or essential fatty acid absorption issue. So you don't have enough stomach acid, and then you don't have enough bile to emulsify the fats. You can't absorb that well enough. So that's a big one. I mean, really, really important. That's why a lot of kids too, young kids, they like fatty foods, and it's really important for them to get fatty foods, good fat. And the reason is that they're trying to develop their nervous system. They're trying to develop their brain. They need that DHA. They need that specific type of fatty acid to make sure that they're creating cholesterol as well in their body, so that their body can produce the hormones that they need, and then also produce all of the nervous system and brain-based tissue that they need as well. So those are a lot of the main ones that I wanted to bring you right now. And what I want you to do is I want you to think about, well, I'll talk about one more. So I just want to be, again, respectful of your time. But another big one is, why people crave meat more than others. And sometimes it's because when you're trying to get a lot of these nutrients from vegetables, you have to have a really strong digestive system. So I'm very supportive of anyone who has a vegan lifestyle as well as a diet, or a vegetarian lifestyle where they're not eating any meat. Maybe they're doing some fish, is that you have to have a strong digestive capacity, whether you're vegan, vegetarian, or animal-based. And the reason why I say that is that you have to be able to extract nutrition. So while you can get a lot of your good B vitamins and other vitamins from vegetables, it's hard to get it if you're not chewing them very well, or if you're not doing some blended smoothies or things like that, because it's harder to break through that cellulose wall, extract the nutrition from those cells. But it doesn't mean that that's not where you should get the majority of, let's not get this backwards. I believe that no matter who you are, I would say 60 to 80%, and I fall more towards 80% of your diet should be plant-based. Argue about the 20% amongst yourselves. That's okay. I'm happy to have that argument any day that you would like, or debate, we should say. But 80% should come from fruits and vegetables. If you're an ectomorph, Vata body type, eat your fruit. No problem with that as well. Make sure it's balanced. And everyone, though, should be getting in all of those good vegetables and all of the good fiber. Remember, there are thousands of studies showing the anti-cancer benefits of fruits and vegetables. There are no studies showing the anti-cancer benefits of bacon. Let's be honest. Eat your bacon if you want to eat bacon, but 80% of your diet should be plant-based. Okay, so if you're craving the meat, though, it could be because you are deficient in some of your essential vitamins, and that's really, really important. And so I do want to make note that it is possible for vegans to be zinc deficient, B12 deficient, and I run labs, so that's how I know. But it's a very, very good possibility that even if you eat meat, you're B12 deficient and you're zinc deficient and magnesium deficient as well, because you might be eating processed foods, or you could be like most Americans, or again, people all over the world. I know we have amazing listenership literally all over the world. Some of our highest are in the UK and London, and in Toronto, Canada, and Australia. So anyway, happy we have these listeners all over the world. But a lot of times, like especially in Australia, their diet's so much better than in the United States, like night and day, because the food laws are just more stringent, that you actually treat animals with respect and you get better quality meat. But again, if you're craving meat, run a hair tissue mineral analysis if you want, and you can see all of the different deficiencies. A good idea for everyone to do once a year anyways. But again, I know that finances are not an option for everyone to be able to run lab tests, but still a nice thing to be able to look at yourself. I'm a big data person. I really am. I want to help people to the deepest level of my core and theirs. And that's why if I see the data, if you run an organic acid test, I can say, okay, bacterial overgrowth, detox, candida, low vitamin deficiency. And if you run a hair tissue mineral analysis, I can say, okay, this person is low on selenium, they're low on chromium, they've got an inverted ratio of sodium potassium. I can see that their body's burning through muscle tissue rather than body fat. I can look at those specific things. And then, again, you can do that for any lab test. Those are just two ones that I'm talking about right now. But I hope this episode was interesting for a couple reasons. And the biggest one I want you to think about is this. I want you to think of the foods. So just think about this over the next day or two. What foods do you crave? Like, what do you really go for? Now, is it just taste? Meaning, like, do you just love the taste of X? Like, maybe it's butter. Do you love the taste of butter? Now, why do you love the taste of butter? Is it because your body needs more cholesterol because you're under a lot of stress, so it needs to actually create more hormone, namely pregnenolone, and then a progesterone, and then to cortisol? Is that what your body needs? That'd be interesting to look at. Or do you just love the salty taste of butter? Because again, we have multiple tastes within certain foods because they salt butter, right? So Is it because you need the electrolytes? And do you need the electrolytes for energy? Do you need it because you were sweating a lot? So think of these things. I want you to think about your cravings, and then if needed, you can go back and just listen to this show. I'm keeping it under 15 minutes. You can go back, you can listen to it again, and you can say, okay, why now do I have these specific cravings? And should I just be using things like Himalayan sea salt with my meals? Should I be adding in a little high iron-based foods? And again, you can get the high iron from collard greens, from your spinach, from pumpkin seeds for iron, same with zinc, or you can get it from meat. It just depends on what your diet is, and I can keep people healthy no matter what your diet is. You just need to look at those specific foods. Go to Instagram.com/Stephen Cabral, and you'll get all this stuff free. You will actually see my high iron lifts, my high mercury fish foods. You'll see all of those different things. Again, Instagram.com/Stephen Cabral, completely free, and it's another avenue for you getting a lot of great, I believe, information on a daily basis that you can consume in under 60 seconds. So, once again, I hope that this show was helpful, and if it was, please do feel free to pass it on to anyone else whom you believe it could help. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate each and every single one of your listens. I really do. Thank you.
Before you go, I wanted to share a personal story with you. The real reason I began to get well finally is because I figured out what was wrong with me. And that might seem pretty obvious, but I went from doctor to doctor for over 2 years before discovering at-home functional medicine lab testing. These are the labs that enabled me to finally figure out what was wrong with my hormones, blood sugar, electrolytes, and gut health. And once I knew what was wrong, I could then follow a proven plan in order to rebalance my body from the inside out. This is why I believe so strongly in functional medicine lab testing and why I've made it my mission to share these labs with the world. Now at equa.life, you can order an at-home lab test or lab bundle for you and your family and be able to complete it within the week. Plus, the EquaLife difference is that you're not left to try to read and figure out these labs on your own. We explain what your lab numbers mean, what they mean in the much bigger picture, and then how to go about rebalancing your body in order to heal. To see our full selection of lab tests or to set up a free lab selection call to find out what labs may be best for you, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. And do remember, we ship these all over the world. To find out more and to set up your free lab selection call, simply head on over to equa.life/labs. That's EQUI.LIFE/labs.